how are you feeling? What are your feels, Scott Galloway?
It's nice of you to ask. I felt a mix of relief, excitement, and sadness, and I was actually quite stressed over the week. In general, I don't know if I'm getting older or the world is really a shittier, more unstable place. But between October 7th, Donald Trump, Biden, I find this all quite stressful. How are you feeling?
This has got a lot of interesting possibilities. Obviously, the Republicans are very nervous, I think, and they are, because it's exciting, and the fundraising is just indicative of that. And so, speaking of fundraising, how many texts did you get from Democrats yesterday? They got more than $50 million online on Sunday, making it the single biggest day for online Democratic contributions since the 2020 election. Everybody was waiting. They didn't want to give it to Biden because they felt sad and like we're going to lose. They're going to throw the money away. How many did you get?
Oh, it's everywhere, but it's exciting. People seem really. I empathize. I felt like when he first announced, I was just like this. I had this cathartic release of a mix of sadness and relief, and then as we came into this morning, there's a palpable sense of hope and optimism and excitement. And one of the stats I love is that Trump immediately boasted that post his conviction he raised $53 million. And what it ends up is that $50 million of that came from one person.
Right.
And the biggest haul, I believe, in this election cycle so far has happened in the last 24 hours.
That's right,
for Vice President Harris. So that's very exciting. And not only that, it's mostly small donors, which I think people are just really excited to get behind,
fresh.
Yeah, to get behind someone other than Biden, and specifically someone other than Trump.
That's right. It's given them an alternative, especially if she makes the right choices. Now, you've been lukewarm on her in the past. Have you changed your? I have not. I know her very well, and I really think she's still. It's not unsung. It's just she's had a lot of accomplishments that like J.D. Vance has no accomplishments, and he gets touted, and she has real up and down. By the way, I don't agree with everything she's done, but certainly an accomplished person. I really like her husband quite a bit. I think he's fantastic. And she's not what people think she is. She's much more conservative. She's much more, she's certainly open-minded, but she's not the left-wing. She's conservative. For California, she's conservative. I'll tell you that. But anyway, has it changed your mind at all, or is it just her being vaunted there makes her more substantive to you?
I'll give you what I see the pluses and minuses, and also, I just want to acknowledge, I think you're a great judge of character, and it's heartening for me that you admire her and think a lot of her. So here are the pluses. The reality is we are where we are, and she starts at letter E or F if they just pivot the infrastructure, the field offices, the money, the staff. I mean, she starts at not a sprint, or not a gallop, but a canter, right?
Right.
It's just the momentum is maintained if she's the pick. I do think that while Secretary Clinton didn't break the glass ceiling, I think she shattered it, and I think that America looks back on that election and says, we were ready for a woman president then, and we're definitely ready for one now. I really do think America is ready for its first female president. In terms of a race in a competition, I think in terms of brand, it's about offering distinct lines of differentiation. When she gets on stage with him at a debate, she's going to make him look as old as he made Biden look.
Right. Yeah.
Having a woman of color who's attractive, he's just going to. I mean, the first tweet I put out this morning was that every presidential candidate in history at this age has dropped out. Donald Trump is too old to be president.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I like
all of a sudden, there's going to be stark relief. And what's interesting is that just as age was the primary consideration in Trump versus Biden, I actually think it's going to be the primary consideration here, but it's going to be our asset, not our liability.
Right.
The brand positioning I would absolutely go after if I were her is I'm a prosecutor, he's a felon. I would just be like, this is what I did to people who ripped off people. She put a bunch of degree mill universities out of business and say, this is what Trump did. He was the degree mill guy. I would absolutely macho myself up around the AG stuff. I'm the prosecutor. He's the felon. Now, the downside. She has not been a successful presidential candidate. She is not battle-tested. She dropped out before she ever won a single delegate. She has not resonated with the American people in her role as vice president. Some people will say that she hasn't been given a fair shot. There's probably some truth to that. But I think actually the most the most negative thing you could say about her is that I find her staff has done a really bad job of messaging, because what they talk about, or what I hear, is that she hasn't been given a fair shake, as opposed to saying she's outstanding. So I think there's nothing's perfect, but I'm sort of at a point where I got to be honest, Kara. I just want someone who can beat Trump. I'm not going to get perfect is not on the menu for me right now.
I think if they wrap her with talented people, there's not enough time.
Well, they already have that.
By the way, there's not enough time for her to fuck up that much. That's the one thing, is the time frame is squeezed, right? And she's the best known person. She makes the right two things. She makes the right choice on vice president. She'll get a lot of credit.
That's interesting.
And it's just not enough time, but you know her pretty well. And like, one of the things I've noticed is online, he's popular on crazy Twitter. She's popular on TikTok. First of all, what should Democrats do in the next week, from your perspective? And
I'm going to push it back to you. It sounds like you're advocating for what I loosely call a coronation versus a competition.
Why is the word coronation? She's the obvious choice. She's the vice president. She's been, speaking of those 14 million votes, they were voting for Biden, but she was on the ticket.
Kara, no presidential candidate, with the exception of Gerald Ford, has not been forced or asked to run something resembling a campaign with competition.
I don't think there's time for it, unfortunately. I
think that's a good argument, but let's be honest, it's a coronation, not a competition.
Well, except that the people that are picking are the Democratic Party. It's not just the poobahs. No, it's not.
Which, by the way, there's some problems. Should it be the party elders making?
Well, I heard the Dean Phillips argument. That he made yesterday.
I'm kind of, quite frankly, I think at the end of the day, I think I'm on board with you. I think I'm just sort of, we've gone through, I feel like we're like an abused family at this point, and we've got some reasonable sense of function back in our household, and we just need to go with it. You know what I mean?
Well, also, by the way, I don't think we're dysfunctional at all. I think the Republicans are dysfunctional. There's so many Republicans who don't want Trump, and they can't say anything. They're in a cult. Look at J.D. Vance. He's had to literally castrate himself for Trump, in terms of, he's a eunuch. He used to be anti-Trump, then he had to do things. These people this is healthy to argue.
But you're, okay, I won't use the word coronation. You think we should rally around Vice President Harris? You don't want a series of debates to try and battle test a candidate.
I'd be happy to have her do that. I think she's quite good on the stump. Newsom, Whitmer, Buttigieg, they've all the ones that would be her competition have pieced out, and they're.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that was part of the deal?
I don't think they could organize it that fast, but maybe. They're certainly in touch with each other, I would guess.
Right. I wonder if part of the deal was Biden saying, look, this needs to be, part of my legacy is handing it off to my vice president, and he called all these folks and said, I'm going to drop out and you're going to endorse her within 12 hours, because it all happened pretty fast.
They didn't quite. Obama hasn't immediately done it. I think all the candidates were smart from a political perspective. There's no reason for more chaos at this point.
Yep. I think it's a good argument.